What would you do if you came home from your husband's funeral to find his family had changed the locks and moved into your house? Today, I'm sharing the most devastating week of my life and how I turned my grief into the strongest comeback you've ever heard. This story has everything: family betrayal, legal battles, and a twist that nobody saw coming. So grab something to drink, because this one's going to take you on a ride. Let me paint you a picture. It's a freezing Monday morning in January. You know those days where the sky looks like it's pressing down on you and the air feels sharp in your lungs. I'm standing on my own front porch, holding wilted flowers from my husband's coworkers, wearing the same jeans I'd thrown on 2 days earlier when everything fell apart. Daniel, my husband of 8 years, had collapsed suddenly. Just like that, our whole world changed. I'd spent 48 hours in hospital waiting rooms, watching machines beep, holding his hand, and 12 hours earlier, I watched the love of my life take his last breath. Now I was home, exhausted, heartbroken, carrying an overnight bag I'd packed in panic, ready to face the silence of our empty house. But what I found instead, that's where this story gets absolutely insane. I slide my key into the lock and nothing. The key won't turn. My heart starts racing because grief makes you paranoid about everything, right? So I try the spare key we kept behind this loose stone on the porch. Still nothing. It's like the house is rejecting me. Then I notice something that makes my blood run cold. Our white linen curtains, the ones I'd hemmed by hand during our first year of marriage, they're gone, replaced by these heavy, gaudy floral curtains that I would never, ever choose. I'm pressing my face against the window, trying to see inside, and what I see makes me question my own sanity. Cardboard boxes everywhere, a pink throw pillow where Daniel always sat, a delicate teacup on our coffee table. And then I see her, Elaine, my mother-in-law. She's sitting in my living room, wearing a navy cardigan, sipping tea from my wedding china. And across from her, Chloe, Daniel's younger sister, folding blankets like she lives there. They're laughing, while I'm standing outside like a stranger, 12 hours after burying their son and brother. I start knocking. No answer. I knock again, harder this time, my fists shaking from exhaustion and disbelief. Finally, the door opens, and Elaine stands there with her arms folded, looking at me like I'm an unwelcome salesperson. "Lydia," she says, tilting her head with this practiced calm, "didn't expect you so soon." I'm stammering, asking why I can't get into my house, and she gives me this smile that could freeze hell over. Then she drops the bomb. "Because, dear, you don't live here anymore." I'm standing there like she just spoken a foreign language. "You don't live here anymore." The words are echoing in my head, slow and cruel. "I'm his wife," I whisper. "We bought this house together." But Elaine, she's got her response ready. She tells me Daniel paid for the house, not me. No prenup, no kids, and, frankly, no real contribution from me. This house belongs to his real family. Here's where it gets even worse. Chloe appears behind her mother, carrying my ceramic serving plates, the ones Daniel and I picked out on our first anniversary in Asheville. She has the audacity to shrug and say, "You left the side door unlocked when you rushed to the hospital. We figured you wouldn't mind." They figured I wouldn't mind them breaking into my house and stealing my life while I was watching my husband die. But here's what they didn't know. Here's what nobody knew. 2 years earlier, Daniel's startup failed. The bank froze his accounts. He was sitting on our porch, head in his hands, telling me they might take the house. I'd never seen him so broken. The next morning, while he was still sleeping, I went to the credit union. I had a nest egg from my interior design work, money I'd saved quietly, money nobody knew about. I refinanced that entire house under my name. I didn't tell Daniel. I didn't tell anyone, especially not Elaine, because she would have called it proof of his failure. For 2 years, I picked up freelance jobs, made every payment, kept the lights on, kept the roof from leaking, kept our life from crumbling. And I never said a word because I loved him. And sometimes love means carrying the weight so someone else doesn't have to. Elaine had no idea, but she was about to find out. That night, I drove without thinking. I ended up at this roadside motel that smelled like bleach and regret, using Daniel's emergency credit card, the only one still active. I sat on those thin sheets, staring at the overnight bag that had nothing but hospital paperwork and grief. But somewhere between the tears and the rage, I picked up the phone. St. Jude Memorial Chapel. This is Marlene speaking. Yes, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. This is Lydia Bennett. I need to update the guest list for Daniel Bennett's service. Of course, Mrs. Bennett. What changes would you like to make? Please remove Elaine Bennett and Chloe Bennett from the list. It wasn't vengeance, not yet. It was a boundary. The first real boundary I'd drawn in years, and it felt like reclaiming my power one decision at a time. Tuesday afternoon, I sneak back to the house through the backyard. The side door still has that faulty latch Daniel never fixed. I slip inside, and everything smells wrong. Lavender air freshener, photos gone, furniture rearranged. I make my way to Daniel's office, his digital junkyard that Elaine always hated. It's chaotic but untouched, exactly how he left it. I start searching through drawers, and then I see it. A black folder wedged between instruction manuals. Across the top, in Daniel's handwriting, postnup, do not discard. We never had a prenup, but apparently, Daniel had other plans. Inside, 3 pages of legal letterhead, signed 2 years ago. The highlighted clause read, in the event of the husband's passing, all jointly owned assets, including real estate, are to be transferred wholly to Lydia Bennett. And folded behind it, a handwritten note. If Mom tries anything, show this to your lawyer. You know how she is. Keep this safe. D double quote. Even in death, Daniel was protecting me from his own family. Wednesday afternoon, I'm eating instant soup at the motel when someone knocks. 3 sharp raps, the kind that don't ask permission. It's Elaine with her lawyer, Mr. Langley. Clipboard in hand, polished shoes, the whole corporate intimidation package. They want to discuss next steps regarding the house. Elaine starts her rehearsed speech about probate law and estate division, but I cut her off. I'm actually glad you're both here, I say calmly. Saves me a trip. I pull out the black folder. This is a notarized postnuptial agreement, signed 3 years ago. 2 witnesses, legal letterhead. It transfers all shared assets to me in the event of Daniel's death. The lawyer wants to see it. I step back. You'll get a copy through official channels. I've already retained counsel. Elaine's mask finally slips. You're bluffing. Am I? I tilt my head. If I'm bluffing, you should feel confident enough to walk away. But if I'm not, then you've broken into my house, tampered with my property, and removed personal items from a residence you have no legal claim to. The lawyer steps away from her. Elaine's voice drops to venom. You were never part of this family. You stole my son. No, I say, calm and quiet. You pushed him away the second he stopped living by your script. By Friday, Elaine had filed a petition challenging everything, accusing me of coercion and manipulation. But I had one more card to play. 3 months before he died, Daniel had a neurological assessment. He'd been worried about forgetting things. The results? Clean bill of health, no cognitive decline whatsoever. In court, Angela, my lawyer and old college friend, laid out the facts like building blocks. Notarized postnup, mortgage deed in my name, bank records showing I paid every bill. And finally, the neurologist's letter proving Daniel was of sound mind. The judge didn't hesitate. The post-nuptial agreement is legally binding. The deed is in Mrs. Bennett's name. The house belongs to her. Case dismissed. The gavel hit like thunder, and I didn't cheer. I just exhaled. The kind of breath you don't realize you've been holding until the war's over. The funeral was set for noon on Tuesday. By 11:15, the chapel was filling with friends, neighbors, clients who drove in from other states, people who really knew Daniel, who loved us both. Then I saw them. Two shadows slipping in at the back, Elaine and Chloe in their performance morning costumes, complete with veils. They weren't on the guest list. The funeral home had promised they'd be stopped. My pulse pounded, but not from grief, from fury. I walked down that aisle slowly, every head turning. When I reached them, Elaine looked up with that faint smile. "You're not supposed to be here. We're not leaving. I gave birth to him," she whispered. "Then you should have respected his wishes. I'm his mother. And I'm his wife, the only one he chose." The standoff was electric. Finally, I said clearly enough for the whole chapel to hear, "If you don't leave, I'll walk out with the minister and the urn. I'll finish this service in a parking lot if I have to, but you won't rewrite him here." Then Chloe, sweet, quiet Chloe, stood up and said, "Mom, let's go. We're not wanted here. Let's stop pretending." And just like that, they left. No scene, no fight, just the soft click of the chapel door closing behind them. The day after the funeral, I found Daniel's old gardening notebook tucked behind cables in his office. Pages of dreams, wild marigolds, rosemary hedges, sketched layouts. There was even a seed packet with a note, "For Lydia, when you're ready." I wasn't ready, but I went outside anyway. I dug my hands into the earth, planted every seed he'd left for me. Marigolds, mint, lavender. As I watered them, sitting beside those bare beds as the sun set, I forgot about lawsuits and arguments. I just sat with dirt under my nails and the scent of possibility rising around me. That night, I found one last envelope on my doorstep. No stamp, just 6 words printed in bold. "This house will always be mine." I stared at it for a long time, and then I laughed. Not from bitterness or anger, but from something lighter, something that felt like freedom. She had no claim left, no power, no presence. Just 6 words from a woman already erased from my wedding, my grief, my future. I buried that letter in the marigold bed. "Maybe something good will grow from it," I whispered. Spring came early that year. The garden, once just empty soil, and Daniel's scribbled dreams, exploded with life. Marigolds like tiny suns, mint that smelled like morning, lavender that hummed with bees. I never heard from Elaine again. No letters, no surprise visits, no cars parked across the street. Whether it was the court order, the garden, or simply the truth finally sinking in, I didn't know. I didn't care. She became a shadow in my rearview mirror. I painted the guest room sage green, replaced her awful photos with ones that belonged. Daniel by the lake, our dog Max, sunsets we'd chased together. I left one drawer in his office, untouched, not as a shrine, but as a promise. I went back to work too. Interior design, one project at a time. A grieving widow who needed her kitchen to feel less like his. A young woman starting over. A retired couple building a sunroom for orchids. I didn't tell them everything, just enough to help them reclaim their space. When people ask me how I got through it all, I tell them this: you don't owe anyone access to your peace. You're not selfish for locking your doors. Sometimes the most beautiful things grow where your world once ended. That's not a metaphor, that's survival. Daniel protected me even after he was gone, and I learned to protect myself. The house Elaine thought she could steal. It's mine, legally, morally, completely. The garden she never saw coming. It blooms every spring brighter than before. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to fight for what's rightfully yours, or if you just love a good comeback story, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. Have you ever had to deal with toxic in-laws or family members who try to take advantage during your most vulnerable moments? Subscribe for more real-life stories that prove sometimes the underdog wins and sometimes justice actually does prevail. And remember, your peace is worth protecting, your boundaries are worth defending, and you're stronger than you think. Thanks for listening to my story. I'll see you in the next one.